Hello everyone, this is me. So on this next little voice recording thing, we are going to talk about one of the other main characters that goes by the name of Aulus. So in Broken Angel, there comes a part in one of the dream sequences that Jamie, who is also one of the main characters, she has one of those night terror episodes where she has this hidden gift or ability where in her dreams she can cross over to the other side in certain parts within purgatory and certain parts within hell. And in book 2, we're gonna go into more detail on her hidden gift and what that means. So, in Broken Angel though, in one of her dreams, she comes across this cave. And in this cave, there's a certain demonic group that is this demonic arachnid group called the Cleanup Crew. And in this demonic arachnid group, there's a lot of them. There's different groups within this group of the Cleanup Crew, and one of the main people of the Cleanup Crew, which is also known as the leader, he goes by the name of Aulus. And that kind of begs the question because of due to how many Cleanup Crew demonic things that are within this group, within a certain place within hell. Well, does that mean that there's other leaders that are possibly a part of this group? I haven't really gone into detail with that. I don't really know. I haven't done that quite yet. Sorry if you can hear my cat. My cat is getting cushiony in the tent. But no, I don't really know if there's any other leaders within the Cleanup Crew. But the main leader as of right now that you come across, or at least that Jamie comes across, goes by the name of Aulus. And in Latin, I believe the name Aulus in Old Latin means something that is as big as a castle. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's something on the lines of what his name means. I'll have to Google it. But so with Aulus, a lot of questions are as to, okay, well, why is the Cleanup Crew so important when it comes to the very order of hell? Why is their existence, and who is Aulus exactly? How did Aulus become to be? So when it comes to hell, you have different levels of demons that are a little bit more powerful than other demons. And I like to think of the Cleanup Crew as kind of like the janitors of hell, right? So say, example, that a demon gets out of hell and starts to attack people, starts to kill people, and there's just bloodshed and carnage everywhere, and things get out of hand. Well, Lucy, being who he is, sees this as a problem, and Lucy knows that the Cleanup Crew, they clean up messes. And so what Lucifer will do is he'll go to Aulus and he will make a bargain with Aulus and be like, so we have a demon that escaped hell, and now this demon is viciously killing people. There's bodies piling up. I don't want to handle it. I don't want to deal with it. I'm a king. I don't want to deal with this shit, basically. Like, I don't want to get my hair messy, and I don't want to mess up my makeup, so yeah, you don't want to deal with this shit. Yeah, you take care of it. In a way, Lucifer is a diva about this situation, so he'll go to Aulus and he'll make a bargain with Aulus. And essentially, Aulus might think about helping, maybe, might think about taking care of the demon, but even in that situation, Aulus is like, you have to give me something in return. I don't work for free and I'm not your bitch. I am a king of my own domain. I am a leader. I am a king of my own domain. I am a king of the Cleanup Crew, of this vast and large demonic arachnid group. You are not my king. Dear fallen prince of heaven, you do not rule over me. So if we're going to make a bargain, it is going to be a bargain of a king making a deal with another king. You have to give me something in return if you want me to clean up your little shit stain of a mess. And so, that being said, Lucifer knows that if he's going to make a bargain with Aulus, he has to come up with a bargain that's really good. Like, really good. And all that stuff. And he has to really think about this. And that's the thing with Aulus, is if you're going to make a bargain with Aulus, you cannot lie and you cannot trick him. He's very smart and he's very, very clever. Like, you can't fool him, you can't trick him, you can't lie to him. So take, for instance, like the deity Loki, right? If deity Loki was to meet the leader of this demonic arachnid group, Aulus, Loki would have to be extremely smart and extremely clever to try to trick Aulus. And even Aulus would be able to detect Loki's trickery right away. He would be able to tell. And Loki would not be able to fool Aulus, because Aulus would, on the spot, be able to detect Loki's trickery and would be extremely pissed off and just want to kill him in a very, very brutal way. That would be very bloody and very unpleasant. And so that kind of begs the question of, who is Aulus? How did Aulus become to be? So, in the story, which I'm still kind of sculpting the background of Aulus, and I might do more scenes in book 2 of the things that he remembers of how he became to be, and kind of dig more into his memories, into his past. And so how Aulus became to be is long before mankind, when light and shadow naturally came to be, when light and darkness naturally came to be. The Leviathans, the first demons to exist, the Leviathans, they naturally were a part of that darkness that came to be. And so God saw this and saw the Leviathans and didn't trust them, and saw that they were savage, that they were these horrible creatures that were huge and massive and serpent-like, kind of as big as Yohamander, the Midgardian serpent. And God saw this and he didn't like this, and so what he did is he put those Leviathans, the first Leviathans, is he put them in a cage, a very, very big cage, and then he put them in a very tight-knit, well-hidden place within purgatory. Well, he just thought that the Leviathans were dumb, and they weren't. They were actually very smart and very clever, and so one of them ended up breaking out of the cage that God put them in and was free. And so then the ancient angels, saw this and they lost their shit, and they're like, oh God, no. And so then God ordered those angels to hunt down this Leviathan that escaped from the cage and to kill it. Well, the angels did that, but then there was other things that happened too. And it even goes into the scene of the Leviathan's dead. The Leviathan's dead, the carcass is there in this desolated, desert-like place. Well, the angels walk away thinking, okay, we killed the Leviathan, we did what God wanted, problem solved, Leviathan's dead, the other Leviathans are still in their cage, we'll deal with them next. Well, upon the carcass of this dead Leviathan, there was this life form that came out of it, and it was this good size black spider with a metallic dark blue pattern down its abdomen, and it was a little bit bigger than, I believe, a Goliath bird-eating spider, glowing red eyes. And the spider was baby Aulus, essentially. And so Aulus kind of oozed out of the carcass of this Leviathan. Was the spider, already had inhuman speed, already had large fangs, and so he just quickly scurried off, and he found this huge cave system, and he went deep into the cave, and he eventually was very, very deep inside of the cave. And then essentially over time, that cave became a part of damnation, became soon to be what would become known as hell. That cave that Aulus took refuge in was around essentially before pre-hell. And so Aulus found this cave, made it his home, did the spider webs and everything, but so then it even goes into a scene that, well, after Aulus found this cave area, he formed this gel-like cocoon thing, and he made this gel-like cocoon thing really huge and really big. Well, he stayed there to take a new form, to change, to transform into something else, to get rid of his old self that oozed out of this dead Leviathan. And so then in this cocoon thing, he changed, he transformed, and soon he was reborn. He was reborn into the form that Jamie sees him in at first. Sees that his bottom half is that of an arachnid, and it's similar to a black widow, but he doesn't have the hourglass. He has the black widow legs, but he still has that dark blue metallic design on his abdomen, and then his top half is more human-like, but not fully, but somewhat physically human-like. And of course he's toned and sculpted, lean muscle and everything. But even the dark blue, I even think even like his top half, because his abdomen, his arachnid abdomen, has the dark blue metallic markings, his birthmarks essentially, and then they go up to his top half, which is more human-like to a degree, and his skin is like a dark blue, blackish, metallic color. And eventually his face, yes, his face is handsome, but eventually his face is kind of like this, eventually his face kind of looks like he has this faded, vintage, eerie court jester clown makeup, but that's his face. That's kind of, and a lot of people would ask, well, like, why does he have that? He's a spider. So it's kind of like, if you think of like a moth, right? So think of like the wings of a moth, right? Where a moth looks like it has eyes on its wings, and they do that to try to fool predators, to try to spook the predators, to try to scare them, right? So that's kind of what Aulus does, is Aulus looks like he has this vintage, creepy court jester, demonic style face paint on, but that isn't face paint, that's his face. And he uses it to try to use it kind of like how moths use it to camouflage and make it look like their wings have eyes to fool the predators, right? And so Aulus kind of has that animalistic instinct, where that's why he has that, looks like he has creepy vintage court jester demonic face paint on, even though really he doesn't, and that's his face, and he uses it for camouflage purposes, much like how any animal in the wild would do. All that stuff. And so then, he gets used to this new form. He starts to this cave area that he had took refuge in, soon becomes a part of hell. And so with Aulus, he decides, well, then what happens is time passes by, and then the bubonic plague happens amongst mankind. People start dying, boils start to form on their body, and so Aulus looks at this as an opportunity of, okay, what can I do with these victims of the Black Plague? Sees it as an opportunity to grow his group, right? So then what he does is, he's very, very powerful at this point. He's actually extremely powerful. Even Lucifer of all people sees that Aulus, in a lot of ways, is way more powerful than Jaslyn. Like, Jaslyn's pretty powerful, right? Like, Jaslyn's pretty powerful, but yet Aulus, in a lot of ways, is even more powerful than Jaslyn. And I think he's maybe even a little, I think that Lucifer is a smidge bit older than Aulus. It's like a smidge bit older than Aulus, I believe. I'm not exactly sure who's older in this situation, but I think Lucifer's a little bit older than Aulus. But Aulus is somewhat just as old as Lucifer. And so Aulus takes these victims of the bubonic plague. He makes a cocoon for them, and they morph and they change. And soon their bottom half becomes that of an arachnid, and they start to become these horrible, monstrous, cannibalistic things that they kind of are a mix of like a demonic arachnid thing mixed with a zombie, where they were at this point when Aulus has them change, the victims of the bubonic plague, they don't remember their physical life. They don't remember the physical life that they had lived, and so that human instinct is shut off. And so now all they just have is this crazy, predatory, inhuman, animalistic, cannibalistic instinct where they just literally do anything to survive. They eat anything to survive, to try to thrive and to survive. And so that human instinct, that humanity that they once had when they were alive, that's gone, that's shut off. And so now they resort to being cannibalistic, and they were victims of the bubonic plague. And so, being victims of the bubonic plague, they have missing flesh. They have boils all over their body, disgusting, huge, massive, pussy boils, and missing flesh all over their bodies. And so, when a new victim, or a fresh, ripe soul, I should say, somehow wanders into their cave area, because even Aulus, he likes his victims, or his snacks, I should say, his food, to be young, to be ripe, to be healthy. He likes the ripe, young, healthy souls because they're more bountiful and they have more fat and meat on their bodies, and their soul is young and youthful. And Aulus' favorite meal is little kids. He loves snacking on little kids and babies. He likes to eat babies. If he had to choose his snack or his meal that he loves more than anything, which he refers to as a delicacy, is babies and little kids. He doesn't mind the young, ripe, youthful souls that somehow wander into the cave area, he'll live with those, or he's like, okay, fine, if I have to live with that, then fine, but every great once in a while, he'll have like a little kid or a baby that wanders into the cave area and then eats them. So that's kind of the thing with, the victims of the bubonic plague, is that when a new, fresh, youthful soul ends up into their cave area, they'll eat the soul, but then they'll save the flesh. They'll use that flesh of the victim to use their spider web thread to sew that flesh of that soul onto the missing parts of their body to try to have new skin, to try to heal that wound. So, that begs the question too, well, are these things that used to be, that were victims of the bubonic plague, are they stupid, even though they're more zombie and cannibalistic? Not exactly. No. Well, them being cannibalistic, let's say there is a new one of them, right? We'll say this new one of them is weaker and isn't the strongest, or isn't the fittest of the group, and is weak. Will they eat that weaker, newer version of them? The whole survival of the fittest aspect? Yeah, they will, because they see this new version of them, or this new soul that passed away because of something disease-ridden, died of a disease or whatnot. Will they essentially eat the weaker soul? Yes, they will. So then, shortly after Aulus created these things, he was like, you know what I can do? I might create something else. Oh, we're gonna do spies and messengers. So then he somehow created these spies and messengers. And these spies and messengers, they're still demonic arachnid things, but they're a little bit big. They're far more bigger than a huntsman spider, and they have the glowing red eyes with the teeth, the sharp fangs. But they're spies and messengers. So what that means is that they usually, when they're usually the ones, they're always the ones to show up in the physical world of mankind first. It is very, very rare when Aulus does. Aulus hardly does, because he doesn't need to. And the victims of the bubonic plague, that whole thing, they don't even go up to the physical world. They don't have to. So essentially, the spies and the messengers are the ones that go up to the physical world of mankind. And they're the ones that have to go and check out the scene first, see what kind of situation it is that they're being called to clean up. And depending on the situation, they'll clean up the situation. But a lot of times, if it's one that is not very concerning, they don't do that. They're like, okay, yeah, whatever. So they're the ones that show up first, and that's why they're called the spies and the messengers, because they're the ones that usually show up first, majority of the time, to see what is the situation that they're being called to clean up, per se. And they're kind of like the janitors of hell, essentially. And that also begs the question, well, Aulus being a leader, is Lucifer his king? No. Lucifer is not his king. Lucifer does not rule Aulus, because Lucifer did not create Aulus, and neither did God. So in a lot of ways, Aulus is his own king of his own domain within hell. And the cave area that he essentially becomes a refugee in, that cave area was around long before hell became hell. That cave area was around before pre-hell, essentially. So that Lucifer is not his king. Lucifer does not rule over Aulus, and Lucifer knows this. And Lucifer, yes, he is the king of hell, but he is not the king of Aulus. He is not the king of the cleanup crew. He is not a king of the domain of the cave area that Aulus rules over. Because then Lucifer knows that when he enters Aulus' domain, he's not a king anymore. He does not rule over Aulus. That he has to make a bargain with another king, and that he has to be careful of how he makes his bargain and what he's bargaining, what he's trading off, what he's giving to Aulus for Aulus to help him, essentially. And so yeah, the spies and the messengers are the ones that usually come up to the physical world first to check out the scene to see how bad a situation is and if they're really needed. And that's Jamie runs into the spies and the messengers, and so that also begs the question too, well, how many of these things are in this cave area? There's thousands and thousands and thousands of these things. There is a vast number of things in this endless cave area. There are spider webs everywhere, and there's body parts of souls everywhere, of spines that were ripped out, of arms, of legs, of heads, of feet, of just body parts literally everywhere within this place, and rotting corpses, and yeah, so yeah, that's kind of about Aulus. Is I might do another video talking about Aulus, but with Aulus, he's very old. He's very old. He's been around for a long time, and he has seen things for a long time, and he's not even, he doesn't even like mankind. He honestly can't even stand mankind. I mean, granted, mankind is a good food source, where he's like, you know, I really don't care about overpopulation, because overpopulation of mankind keeps my belly full and is my main food source. So hey, overpopulation is my main food source, because then I at least get a snack on people and eat them. The ripe young souls that somehow wander into the cave area. But yeah, he's old. He's been around for a long time. You cannot fool him easy. You can't fool him. Even the most slyest trickster god of all would not be able to fool Aulus, because Aulus has been around for a very, very, very long time. And he's far older than mankind, so he's seen some things, and he's a king and he's a leader of his own domain. And that also kind of begs the question of, okay, well, how do people go into this cave area? Like with Jamie, Jamie has a hidden gift. She has a hidden ability where in her dreams she can cross over to the other side of the veil, and go into certain places within hell and purgatory and the cave area, Aulus' cave area, that she's strong enough that she can go into the cave area into her dream. Well, people with those abilities, people that can do the things that Jamie can do, that's one way that they can go into the cave area in Aulus' domain, because Aulus' domain in this cave area is within a certain place within hell that is very hard to get to and nearly impossible. So dream walking or becoming a dream walker is one way that you can go into the cave area of Aulus. Or say that you, in a magical sense, know how to lift that veil and go to the other side. That's another way you can do it. Or those are the most common ways that you can do that. Or say that you're just with a group of friends and you happen to come across this cave area, and you cross the other side to the veil without even realizing that you've crossed this dimension to this other side, that you crossed this dimension to this other side. That's another way that you can go into Aulus' cave area. So you can go into his cave area through some sort of through some form of magic, becoming a dream walker, or somehow crossing the dimension without even realizing it. Just kind of strolling into this cave area and just strolling into this cave entrance with curiosity, not knowing that it leads to hell, essentially. But yeah, that's about Aulus. I might write more about him because Aulus, he is one of the main characters and he's very elusive, and me and Kit, we want to start doing artwork of Aulus soon. We would love to do artwork of Aulus soon. I'm hoping to, because he's a very cool character, and yeah, he's scary, but even though he's scary, he's very clever, and he's very smart, and he's very aware of things. And yes, his nature is more animalistic and predatory, but even more animalistic and predatory. He can speak all the languages of mankind. He knows Old Latin. He can speak Old Latin besides being able to speak all the languages of mankind. And he's very aware and he's very smart. Extremely smart and extremely aware of things. And he's old, so I mean, does that mean that Lucifer is terrified of Aulus? Not really. Not really scared of him, but just more so respects him because he knows that Aulus, in a lot of ways, is even more powerful than he is, and he knows that when Aulus is like, and he knows that when Aulus basically is like, I don't give a shit if you're the fallen prince of heaven, I really don't care if the Christians call you Satan. Listen, even if the Christians call you Satan and they're terrified of you, I really don't give a flying fuck. I could rip you to pieces. And I could use my arachnid legs without even trying. Don't test me, you little shit. And so with that being said, Lucifer does respect Aulus, knowing that Aulus is a leader and he's a king of his own domain, and he has to respect Aulus and he has to respect Aulus's domain, and that whenever, Lucifer talks to Aulus, in a way, it's like a king, it's like a king speaking to another powerful king. It's like two kings in this room that have to address each other, that have to speak to each other, that have to make a bargain with each other if they want to work with each other. Kind of thing. So that is with Aulus. And I would love to do artwork of Aulus soon. And I don't know who would portray Aulus. I really don't know. I mean, I'm open game to whatever actor would want to portray Aulus. I'm totally open game to whoever would want to portray him, and I definitely might write more about Aulus's background. And it's kind of funny, Hellhound Hades, Hellhound Hades, yes, is the son of Lucifer and is very powerful, but he even knows, as powerful as Hades happens to be, that Aulus in a lot of ways is even more powerful than Hades. And Hades is not a very big fan of going into the cave area because he's kind of terrified of Aulus, because Aulus happens to be very big, and Aulus has this ability to where he can make his form huge and massive like a castle, so he can become very big. But then he also has this ability where he can kind of shrink his size down a little bit, but not be as big as a castle, but still be as big as a giant and still be big. Still be big, but then still be extremely intimidating to mankind. So he has different abilities. He can do things. And even Hades of all people, he's kind of terrified of Aulus, where he's just like, yeah, not my most favorite person in the world. Intimidating and scary, and he likes to call Aulus Big Al. Hades addresses Aulus as Big Al. And I'm like, who are you talking about? Who's Big Al? And he's like, oh, you don't want to know who Big Al is. He's fucking terrifying. I hope you like spiders. He's big. He's scary. I'm scared. Like, he's not the biggest fan of Aulus. He's terrified of him. Where Aulus puts up with Hades, but really doesn't have the patience for him, and is more annoyed with Hades when Hades has to show up in the cleanup crew and ask Aulus for help. And he's like, Al? Big Al, are you here? Aulus? And Aulus just shows up and scares the crap out of Hades. And Hades is like, oh god. And Aulus is just like, there better be a good reason as to why you're here in my cave. What do you want? Hi, Al. So my daddy, he brought me down here to try to negotiate with you. Make a bargain? And Aulus is like, and don't waste my time, you pathetic little creature. I don't care if you are a hellhound and Satan is your father. Don't waste my time. What do you want? And Hades is like, I kind of forgot. I'm gonna be back. When I remember, I'll be back. Bye. And like goes away, and Aulus is just like, well, that was a waste of my time. Pathetic. Like, he's just, that's Aulus. So I might do another video talking about Aulus. Alright, cool. Bye.